Hey folks, this is Matt of the Accelerated Dragon, and I'm going to try to demystify chess for you today because everybody thinks it's so super hard, but as you're going to see, it's not hard to learn, it's hard to get good at. All right, so here we go. We only have 6 pieces. That's all we have to learn. You can learn these pieces in an afternoon, and after you do, all it is getting better from there on. You have a pawn. Pawns can move 1 space at a time, exception for their first row. From their first row, they can move 2, so you can go clunk clunk. Now, pawns are like peasants. They mean peasants. So what they are is they have a shield in front of them, and they can only poke out their shield one way or the other way. So he can only attack here or here, but he can't attack in the front because his shield blocks his way. So if you put a pawn up here, and then this guy puts a pawn up here, well, they crash shields together. They can't attack each other. It takes somebody from the side for them to attack them. So that's how a pawn works. That's the easiest way to explain a pawn. Over here we've got a castle, okay? It's also known as a rook. It's part of the castle wall, and as every wall works, it's a straight line. It can go as many as it likes in a straight line, sideways or horizontally, all right? That's how a rook works. If it runs into something, it stops. If a pawn is up here, it can take it, and in chess, when you take a piece, you always take the space of it. So he would take that piece, but now if you look, here's this rook, and he can move down this row, and he can hit him, because they always move in straight lines, as many as they like. So he could actually move all the way across here and take this guy, because rooks move in straight lines, just like walls. That's what this is. It's a rook. It's a wall. I'm going to come back to the knight, because everybody gets confused with knights. So we're going to jump over to the bishop. Bishop is a clergy, so clergies are always moving on the same color. They're always on target. They're always on message. So he's on a white square. He's always going to be on white squares. He's always going to follow diagonals. So he's going to go straight diagonals. As many as he likes. He can go as many as he likes down this diagonal. So they work just like the rook, but on diagonals. So he's straight lines, he's diagonals. That's all it is. He's attacking this guy down here because it's a straight line on white. The other bishop would be on black over here. So he's always on straight lines on black. That's all it is. That's all this piece does. It's not terribly confusing once you see what it does. It just stays on straight lines, always on diagonals, always on white. This one would always be on black. Okay? The queen is both of them. So the queen works in straight lines. She works like walls. She can go on walls as much as she wants, and she can go on diagonals as much as she wants. So she can move as many spaces as she wants, straight lines, as long as she's in straight lines. You can never go through your own pieces, and you take pieces by replacing them. So that's how the queen works. That's why everybody thinks the queen is so strong, is because she acts like 2 pieces at once. She's the rook and the bishop. The knight, this is the confusing guy, and I've described it like this. If you're on black, you're going to end on white. He always jumps, and he lands either on his right foot or his left foot. So that's how the knight jumps. He jumps 1, blink, or jumps 1, and lands on his left foot. He does it either way. He can face this way and go right foot, queen, where the queen's sitting, or left foot and land over there. Now, the only reason he's able to jump is so that he can go over his own pieces. So if there's a bunch of pieces in his way, he can jump up over them, but he always comes down either on the right foot or the left foot. Doesn't matter which way you're going. You can have it sideways. He can be completely blocked in, makes no difference. He can jump up over. He lands left foot or he lands right foot. Always changing color. Goes from black to white, from white to black. So white, black. That's how the knight works, okay? Then we're back down to our king, our leader of our army. The king is also very easy to understand. He always moves 1 space in any direction he wants to go. He's a feeble old king, so he's got 1 ring around. Now, just because he's feeble doesn't mean he's not strong. He's always hitting these 8 squares. The only time he doesn't is when he's on the edge of the board. Then he would be hitting less squares, but he hits every space around him. So any piece that's around him, he can attack. King is not necessarily weak. He can always take pieces. That's the basic of the pieces. Once you know how all of those 6 pieces work, you can play chess. It just takes time to get better at it. The goal of the game is to take out the king. So if you get enough pieces that are attacking the king, this is check. Pawn says he can attack the king, and if you don't do something about that, then the pawn will take the king the next turn. That's what check means. Checkmate is if you do this and there's nothing the king can do. So if you had a bishop blocking all these white squares, and you had a rook hitting this black square and he's in check, he can't come up here because the bishop would take him. He can't come over here because either the pawn or the rook would take him. and this guy has him in check. Since nothing can take the pawn, this is checkmate. So does that make sense? The king can't go anywhere, and what we don't try to do is we don't try to actually remove the king from the board. We just try to say, if you move anywhere, you're still going to get taken. So that's what checkmate is. That's how you actually win the game. So black would say, I win, because you can't move anywhere without me taking you next turn. If you went here, then the bishop would take you. If you tried to take the pawn, then the other pawn would take you. So that's checkmate. So that's how we play. That's the easiest way to understand. There's a couple of obscure other rules that you can learn. Like if you have not moved your rook or your king, and there's space between them like this, then you can do castling, which is a defensive thing where you can flip these guys around, which is it is an important rule in chess, but not relative to learning how to play. It's just that, I mean, it's not relative to learning how the pieces move. It's just that's relative to learning how strategy works. So that's how you learn to play. But once you know those pieces, you could play chess. Your goal is to attack their king. Their goal is to attack your king. If you lose your queen, that's a bummer, but the king is the game. And if you come in on Mondays, we can show you how to play better. All right, that's it. That's the Excella Dragon. That's why we play.